Hi, this is Maria Mandarino, and I am here today with Julie Jacobs, who is a counselor at Windhorse Counseling here in Chandler, Arizona. And we're doing a series right now on the Enneagram and dealing with narcissists or people with narcissistic tendencies. So if you haven't caught the video before this one, we did one on type 1. Julie, give us a little introduction to yourself and your work. We'll start there.
Okay. So my name is Julie. Excuse me. I work at and own Windhorse Counseling in Chandler, Arizona. I opened my private practice back in 2014, and I love my work. I love my clients. Um, I've learned lots and lots of different modalities. I've worked with lots of different people. I've gained all kinds of knowledge from good friends like Maria. And my practice, I guess I would call it pretty eclectic. I do lots of different things because I think that not everybody meets you in that same space.
Yeah.
Not everybody hears or sees or feels things in the same way. And so I've learned lots of different ways to approach topics. As far as working in the sandbox for sand tray therapy, doing EMDR therapy, regular good old talk therapy, some art stuff, some movement stuff, whatever works.
Yeah, one of the coolest therapists I've ever met. I'm proud to call you my friend too. So thank you for being here. As I know you're a super busy lady too.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Tell us quickly before we jump into type 1, which is what we're going to focus on today. I want you to talk quickly about why your practice is called Windhorse Counseling.
You bet. So, in the Eastern traditions, the wind horse is a mythical creature that comes along and helps carry you on your way until you can carry yourself. And so that's what I like to do. I like to help carry people until they can carry themselves.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
I
where the
love
name
that.
came from. And it
Yeah,
just resonated so much with me.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. I love that.
Thank
All
you.
righty. So today we're going to focus on Enneagram Type 1, which is the perfectionist, also called the reformer, sometimes called the improver. So there are certain types, I think, that are more vulnerable to the energy. We're gonna focus these talks on energy, where you gain it, where you lose it when you're dealing with a narcissist, and how to create boundaries. Um, and I don't want to focus too much on this, but Julie, we've talked about this. There are some types that are also able to fall into being the narcissist easier than other types. And that's not really the work of the Enneagram, but we've chatted about it. And it's all patterns of behavior, right? So some patterns are more apt to take the narcissist ball and run with it.
Yeah.
And then by the same token, some types are really able to step into the boundaries, which I think ones can do. But I think there's a space where they could also really fall victim to somebody who's a narcissist. So before we jump into that, I want you to talk first about how do we know when it's time to get help before we just try to do this with a book or a YouTube video. And how do we suspect, maybe we don't know, but how do we suspect we might be dealing with a narcissist? So let's do that first.
Yeah. So, as you and I have talked, narcissist has become a big buzzword now.
Mm.
And lots of times people don't get their way, or they're fighting with someone and they come in and he's a big old narcissist, or she's a narcissist. And sometimes they are. And sometimes they have narcissistic tendencies, right? But there aren't as many narcissists out there as, social media would make you think. But they are there. And there are a whole lot of people with narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you are unsafe, if you feel like someone is controlling you, by all means, get out the door and get some help, get some support. If you say, I'm thinking about going to counseling, and the person says to you, why would you do that? You maybe don't want to go with this person, right? Because they don't want you to go to counseling because they don't want you to learn. They don't
Yeah.
want you to learn that they're the problem. Um,
Yeah.
A narcissist, how do you recognize them? People who don't have any empathy, people who need constant admiration. Well, you look nice today, but what about me? I don't know if you noticed, right? People who feel very entitled, the ones who can't accept criticism. That's a big one. And I think I neglected to mention that last time.
Yeah.
But if it's someone who, and you say, oh, you should have turned left there. And now they're not speaking to you for 2 hours because they're punishing you, right? You know what I mean? And the person who sucks up all the oxygen in the room, right? We all know somebody like that. And it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
But imagine living with someone like that or being in an intense relationship with someone like that.
Yeah.
If they're taking all the oxygen in the room, there's none for you. Get out.
Yeah. 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 And
If
get some
you're
help.
right. And if you're finding that when you're approaching this person and you're saying, hey, I'm not comfortable with that, or hey, this is a boundary and you violated it, or I don't like when you do this to me. Um, oh my gosh, I got totally sidetracked. But those are people who would
Yeah.
have those narcissistic tendencies.
Right.
And I would encourage you to reach out for some help, talk to somebody and figure out what can I do? What is the role I'm playing in keeping this relationship
Yeah.
going?
Yeah.
Narcissists tend not to be receptive to any kind of feedback about
Mhm.
how they could do different or better.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you getting feedback? I'm getting feedback on
No,
that. Okay. Okay. All right. Um, so it was interesting what you said about the narcissist not being able to accept criticism.
mhm.
Because I don't know if you did that on purpose, but type 1 is all about the inner critic. So that's a good place to start. So let me screen share the focus of type 1. Okay. And cards like, okay. So the focus on type 1 of type 1 is on being right. That just holds a huge value, being right, being correct, getting it right. Creating improvement. That's why we call them the reformer too. They always want to make it better or make you better. They have very high standards that, cleanliness is close to godliness kind of idea. That's kind of like type 1 energy. Let's make it better, improve the standards. They can be critical. So the inner critic, they're critical of themselves all the time. They're constantly bashing themselves for what they could have done better, what they should have, could have, should have done it. Could have, should have, would have. And they can also be critical of their loved ones when they're coming from their lower side of type. Their focus is away from pleasure. They are the one type, if you ask them, what do you do for fun? You can pretty much bank on getting an answer of what's fun. Why would you want to do fun? Because you're supposed to be working on making things better. And that's like really deep in them. And that inner critic never stops. And we were chatting before about this when you're dealing with a narcissist, because that inner critic never stops, there can be this risk of the next inner conversation being, well, they act this way because it's my fault. So, so I'm going to turn it over to you, Julie, and your insights and experience around people that present this way.
So that inner critic never stopping, right? And that it's my fault. And a really good narcissist knows that that's how you work.
Yeah.
While they don't have empathy and um, they need all of the admiration and entitlement, they also can see where they can prey on someone, right? And that's going to be a weak spot in the one. Because if you're willing to accept that everything is your fault, well, welcome, 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 because
Mhm.
that narcissist is going to tell you how it's your fault they didn't get the job. It's your fault they were late for something. It's your fault they can't lose weight. It's
Yeah.
your fault they didn't sleep.
Mm.
And to continue teaching that one, reinforcing that idea that it's their fault, that's a pretty good soft spot. That's a pretty good weakness in a one for that.
Yeah.
Combined with the improver title,
Mm-hmm.
like if I just do better, I can make it better.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to stay engaged with
Yeah.
that narcissist.
Yeah.
So I would encourage someone who feels like everything is their fault, and this person you're having a relationship with is reminding you and reinforcing that everything is your fault, that you step back and go, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
it can't possibly all be my fault. I'm not that powerful enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just thinking, and this didn't occur to me before. What about the type 1 who's got a 2 wing? So they're the giver,
Hmm.
the nurturer. Um, what about that?
Well, they just need to have a really good radar because it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
tough,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Radar is a good point.
right? So
Yeah.
you got to, it's tough because, so not the one, the nine might have a harder time with it, right? Is listening to that gut voice.
Mm.
Because if that gut voice is telling you, I'm not sure about this person, I think that there are some of those, I know that there are some of those Enneagrams where like, don't listen to that voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No matter which type you are, listen to that voice.
Yeah.
Our voices are
Yeah.
usually right. Like we feel things in our body, and that is sometimes easier for people to pay attention to than feeling sad, lonely, afraid, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But if your gut, you feel like you got a punch in the gut every time this person walks in the room or opens their mouth, listen to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to move over to the other slide. Um, so these slides are from the course that I have coming up on the Enneagram. You can see that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So one falls into the body type. So these purple blue colors here are the body gut center. So that's, what you were just referring to. The difference between one with a 9 wing is listening to that gut instinct. A little tougher with the 1 too, because this is a heart center.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the empaths. So that 1 is the perfectionist, the reformer, the person who wants to make it better, but they're also empathetic. So yeah, you talked about radar. As a counselor, what's your experience with empaths having good radar?
Empaths have good radar. They don't always listen to it.
Yeah,
And empaths are little magnets for narcissists,
yeah, yeah,
especially the ones who are better at it, right? The ones
yeah,
who can do it more
right.
covertly, more
Yeah,
subtly.
yeah,
Before you know it, it's whoa,
yeah,
and you're in.
yeah.
So empaths also have a harder time walking away,
Yeah,
right? But they need
you
me
feel
and I want
guilty.
to help them and the
Yeah.
guilt.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're leading with 1, it's important to know, do you have that 9 wing? Do you have that 2 wing? Are you going more towards sloth and checking out, or are you trying to help and to fix them and nourish them more and help them and they need me, that kind of thing. So where's your 1 settling as far as what's next to you? What energy are you leaning into? Is it the 9? Is it the 2? This is the work that we do with the Enneagram. This is stuff that we go deeper into. So then there are the lines, right? So one has a line to 7 and one has a line to 4. And I don't want to get too much into the other two types. That this is all going to be in the course, which is not focusing on dealing with narcissists, but it's going deeper into your type structure and where your power is. One goes to 7 in security and attainment. When you want to achieve something, one will move into 7. So that has to do with fun and experience and opportunities. And in their low side, when they're stressed out, when they want to avoid a situation, they kind of become 4-ish. So that's the individualist, the romantic, we also call them, the person that will never have what's there's like this elusive thing in life. They see themselves as imperfect, or one of my friends is deficient. There's this longing, this almost sorrow that they kind of start swimming in. So my belief about the Enneagram is you can also go into the higher side of your stress type. And by the same token, I think if you're not conscious, you can also go into the low side of your security type. So this is where the Enneagram empowers people. So that 4, if you find yourself into this, going into this, I need to be unique. I need to be unique because I'm deficient. So if I'm unique, people will love me. Julie, speak to what that's going to do to the narcissist or the person with narcissistic tendencies.
So the person who needs to be unique is the narcissist.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
4s can be good narcissists. Low 4s. Low 4s.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because that's someone who needs to be unique, but is also going to focus on all of their uniqueness, right?
Yeah.
Or about how I'm so freaking special. It's your problem that you can't see it.
Mm, mm, yeah, yeah. So, and then ones have that inner critic. So that's going to like boomerang right back at that and
Mhm.
just eat away at their self-esteem.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep trying harder. They're going to perfect more. They're going to improve more. You can get in that trap that ones can really get caught in.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then that 7, like seeing the opportunities is the high side of 7, seeing the opportunities, seeing the creativity, being creative with it. That's where you can draw some energy into your 1. That's where you can empower yourself. So how do you feel about, as a counselor, how do you feel about empowerment, just like being in your power?
Huge.
But is
Huge.
that a boundary? Does that give them access to a better, like how does that play into boundary?
I think that when a person is in their power, feeling empowered, they are much better able to say, this is what I deserve. This is all I'm willing to accept.
Hmm.
This is non-negotiable.
Yeah,
Right?
well,
So if you can be in your power and figure out for you, and really good for people who really feel for others, right?
mm,
Is write down your list, not when you're feeling like you're in a bad relationship. Write down your list
right.
of these are my wants, these are my needs, these are my absolute non-negotiables.
Yeah,
And if
yeah,
you're finding that someone is asking you to change your non-negotiables, to change the relationship,
yeah,
not your non-negotiables,
right. Yep. Amen.
right?
Yep. So what's the narcissist going to do when you do that?
The narcissist going to do when you try and change your
No,
non-negotiables?
when you won't change them.
When you won't change them, they're
Yeah.
going to tell you about how you're wrong, or they're going
Same.
to tell you that that didn't used to be a rule,
Yeah.
and who told you that that was non-negotiable,
Yeah.
and maybe it's non-negotiable for other people, but I'm special, remember?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anytime you try and enforce a boundary with a narcissist, they're going to I'll say, ramp up their behavior.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
narcissists don't necessarily behave the same way, although they have those same personality traits, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's what are they going to do then to manipulate you?
Yeah.
Or are they going to start to gaslight you?
Hmm. Hmm.
You've allowed me to do this a million times before. Why is it different?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think I ever allowed you to do that. You absolutely did. You just don't remember, right?
Yeah.
They're always right in the conversations.
Yeah.
For a one, if you tell a one, you don't do that, you don't do it right, that's going to hit them hard, right? Because they
Yeah.
already have that self-loathing. They're
Hmm.
already anxious. They have
Yeah.
that inner critic already telling them and telling them and telling them.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you've got that mirror reflecting it back at you, and it's all lies. And you've got your inner lies, you've got the outer lies. And yeah, it can really, that's why I think, everybody thinks, well, ones can be the narcissist. There's 9 flavors of narcissist, probably more than, but in the Enneagram, there's 9 possibilities. It's, you can
But
have
they all
9
taste
versions,
terrible.
right? Yeah. So you look at the one and you think, well, they're rigid, they're unyielding, they're perfectionists, they're not going to let a narcissist in. But I think they really can be one of the types that's really vulnerable. um you know if they're not in the higher side of their energy, I think a narcissist can really mess with a type 1. And it's that if they can get a hook into that inner critic, it's almost like a demon in your head.
Uh-huh.
So yeah. Yep.
Well, and they can connect on that moral superiority piece, right? It's you and me against the world because nobody else
Yeah.
gets us.
Yeah. Yeah, if they're really good at manipulating. I'm trying not to like look at what type a narcissist would be, but if you have a narcissist who's a low 2, they can do that brilliantly, that you and me together against the world. Yeah,
Uh,
that can really actually be scary from an Enneagram perspective.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So anything that you want to add?
Think so.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job of covering the
Hmm.
one here. All right. So, um, I want you to speak about the upcoming project that you have with boundaries.
Yes.
So share that with the people.
Thank you. So we're going to be doing a boundaries group. Should start probably mid-September. We will use the book by Cloud and Townsend, which is called Boundaries. They're the gurus in it. They have a million boundaries books, boundaries for all of the different things. That book has sort of become my outline-ish, because I get bored just reading a book. So we do some other creative things as well. And there's a lot of power and strength in meeting with a group of people
Yeah.
and talking about your issues with boundaries and what have you found works with this kinds of situations and what works with that. So it's a starting place. um, Boundaries can be really difficult to enforce,
Mhm. Yeah.
especially for people who don't have them or
Yeah.
don't enforce them very often.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
can be scary and it can feel like you're being mean. But the truth
Mm.
is, in having those boundaries that create safety.
Self-love.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
For sure.
Mhm. Yep.
So, and a narcissist loves someone without boundaries.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of places I
Right.
can
Yeah.
put my hooks in.
Yeah. Because God forbid you shouldn't have self-love.
Nope,
You
nope, nope,
can't
nope,
have
nope,
that.
because you have to let me the narcissist.
Yeah.
As I said, all the oxygen in the room goes.
It's such good work that you're doing, and doing it in community like that to get the support from each other, but just walk into a room and know, like, I'm not the only one that this happened to, and the fact that you're not the only one that didn't learn it. I'm of the belief that somewhere you learn boundaries or you learn not to have them. I don't know if that's accurate from your perspective, but
I don't know. I I just think there's so many factors in that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because there
Yeah.
are people who have really good, firm boundaries,
Mhm.
and then later on they're completely isolated and alone because now
Yeah.
they've made cement walls,
Right.
drawbridges that are
Yeah.
up, and a
Yeah.
moat that's filled with alligators.
Yeah.
They're going, well, they're not good at the boundary piece.
Mm,
Sure, but
yeah.
you're kind of shitty at having relationships.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yep. Yep.
sort of figuring out that balance. And then people
Yeah.
who have no boundaries, yes, they
Right.
tend to get walked all over.
Yeah.
They tend to get exhausted. They tend
Mhm.
to be spread too thin.
Yeah.
Pretty soon they don't even know who they
Who
are,
they
right?
are. Yep. Mhm.
And so, yeah, boundaries are important. I think
Yeah.
that we learn them, doing, but I think we also learn them
Yeah, for sure.
watching other people do,
For
right?
sure. Yeah. We talk about that a lot in the Enneagram and what are you modeling?
Right.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Very
Mhm.
cool. And people can find you at windhorsecounseling.com if they're interested in doing the group with you. That's going to be
Absolutely.
live and in person, like in the,
Live and in person.
okay. Okay.
Mhm. Tech isn't
Um,
my strength either.
what? Tech isn't
Tech
your
isn't my
strength. Yeah, we're either go easily or be dragged, right? So
Uh-huh.
all righty. So thank you for being here, everyone. Thank you for showing up and watching this episode. I didn't mention it in the last video, but remember to subscribe. You'll be updated. We're going to be doing one of these for each of the 9 types. So subscribe to the channel. You'll be notified when we're doing the next one. Please comment on your experience with the Enneagram and dealing with people with narcissistic tendencies. Um, Share the video with somebody that you think might need to get this information. As to working with me, spiritual direction or Enneagram typing, I'm available for both online. I'm an acupuncturist as well. Some of you know that. Do that here in the West Valley of Phoenix. You can reach me at mariamandarino.com. I will have both of our information in the show notes coming, well, not coming up, but at the end of the show. And I look forward to seeing you next time when we will discuss. I don't know, you want to finish the body types? I didn't even think about that. We could do
Oh,
type 8 next.
yeah, that's good.
Okay, we're going to discuss type 8 next, which will be really interesting because that's the one type that I had the most questions about when I was doing my research on this. So we
Oh,
will see you.
cool. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
yeah.
All
All righty.
right.
Okay, we will see you next time. Thank you for being here and thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Maria.